Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and we've stalked each other for 400 years through musicals, through Priscilla, and on tour in 2016. Jason Donovan is one of the most popular stars in British live entertainment, and he joins us back on the phone now. How you doing, Jason?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Just settling into that pre-Christmas, frenzy.
How does it work for you? Are you working throughout, or do you get some time with the kids?
I'm doing. I have 4 days off in between. I think I have Christmas Eve off, Christmas Day, Saturday to Sunday, then I'm back on the Monday.
It's tough, isn't it? Because for you, I guess it's either a musical, doing your own show, or panto. Is this the best of three evils at this point?
I've never done panto, so that answers that question. But look, I don't normally work at Christmas. This is quite unusual for me. But I have 3 children to feed, and they cost me a fortune. So I'm working more than I've ever worked, which is a good thing. Priscilla is such a great show to be part of that. I couldn't really turn back this opportunity to be in Edinburgh. It's such a great theatre.
Yeah, and huge. There is a pressure, of course, you've got to be brilliant. But the good thing about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, is it's just a wonderful joy from the second the curtain goes up to the second it comes down. It's powerful, it's meaningful, and it's got some wonderful tunes in it. You can't really lose.
No, it's a great story. I think that's the most important thing about this piece. It is a jukebox musical, yes, and it is peppered with some really classic, disco camp anthems. But at the core of it is a sort of great story about these 3 guys that take this sort of adverse trip into the desert. It's a modern musical. People are looking for something different from their theatrical experience other than just Cats,
Well, I sit through so much rubbish, I leave most things. This is one show that I look forward to seeing and always enjoy because the music is recognisable, and there's also great songs like We Belong in it, and loads of camp classics, Tina Turner, stuff like that. But as you say, it's got true heart, and it's not nice. This isn't Disney. This is about a man's fight for acceptance, and along the way it gets quite dark.
It is quite dark, actually, and I think you've hit the nail on the head when you said it's not Disney. But I think that it has a wonderful heart to it, and that's why people love it. Because, again, it's a modern musical, and life is doesn't always turn out in a Disney sort of way, and
right.
The show really, really manages to deal with those issues quite well.
I've spoke to you many times over the years through your different projects, and it's interesting what you say about feeding the kids and being in work. It's amazing that you are still relevant and wanted, and I think that's down to your talent and core popularity. Have you ever put your finger on why you're still here and so many of your contemporaries are currently driving taxis?
That's pretty harsh, but I don't know whether they're all driving taxis, but look, I work hard. I was very lucky with leverage, with neighbours. But I guess you'd argue, and one could say, you create your own luck. That's what I tell my kids anyway. Certainly the profile of that show, even to this day, has given me wonderful opportunities. But it's what you do with those opportunities that makes you more special than other people, I suppose. It's your work ethic. It's your ability to learn. It's natural talent in there as well. I'm not, I'm not the greatest singer in the world. I'm not the greatest actor in the world, but I don't think you need to be to draw on an audience. If you are passionate about what you're doing, you do it with heart and love. People like you for it. I'm not false either. I'm not really into slapping people on the back, just saying, do you know what I mean? I'm not sort of sweet.
Yeah.
That's sort of, I'm respectful, and but I struggle with my things in my life as much as everyone else, and not everything has a silver lining. So
Absolutely. And through the highs and lows, you've come back and reinvented yourself. I think the thing that probably made you an even bigger star than Scott from Neighbours was Joseph, and that sort of set you on a path of musical theatre. I wonder sometimes why you do it, because a bit like Panto, it is hard work. It's 8 shows a week, and you've got to deliver and you've got to turn up. There must be easier ways of earning a living.
There might be, but, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. It ticks a number of boxes for me. The producers treat me very well, and I can't say that as a earning capacity for me, it works for me as well. So yes, it is hard work. It requires a lot of focus, self-discipline. I don't always I don't like matinees. If I could do one show a day, or at least one show sort of 5 or 6 days a week, it would be a walk in the park to me. Yeah. But the great thing for me is I can dip in and dip out. I'll still do a radio show on a Sunday night, which I love for Heart. And, I get to do other projects. So it's not just all about travelling and touring.
Do you love the radio show? It's interesting. I mean, Heart for me is my go-to radio station for the background because it just plays upbeat music non-stop. Is it still Joy's? Because you've been doing it a long time.
Well, my theme is 80s music, and it's a decade I know and love very well. So, to that extent, the glove fits perfectly for me. I don't do it 5 days a week. I tend to write a lot of my own scripts that they're very much sound bites. So, I love radio. I mean, I don't have to get dressed up for radio. I can sort of turn up and just do it, and it gets a good reach of audience, so it keeps my foot in the door. Yeah. And keeps me match fit, I think.
Yeah. We've talked about your past before and how you've had times of difficulty and you've come back. And of course now your life is very different. With 3 kids, there's the school, there's the dinners, there's the modality of reality, I suppose. Is that settling for you? Is this what you've sort of dreamed of, a normality and a calm in your life?
Well, I'd say it's far from calm. I mean, with 3 children, again, going back to what I was saying, we like to live a certain lifestyle, and that requires digging deep. I'm certainly, my wife has just recently started another business, and that's very exciting for her, but and for all of us. I'm hoping, at some point maybe I can take a little bit of a backseat, which would be nice as well. But I mean, it doesn't get any easier, I guess I'm a bit calmer in the way I approach things, I don't get so wound up. Ignorance is bliss, so being young is easy, but then again, being older, you're more aware of what can go right and wrong, and the limited amount of time you have to try to achieve what you want to achieve. I'm still very ambitious, and I still want to do other things. I'd love to do more television drama. But the most important thing for me is, my family stability, their happiness, and, that all the rest is really sort of playing in the sand, because if you don't have your health and your happiness, right. The rest of it doesn't mean anything. And I know how lucky I am. I've definitely, I've had a great opportunity in my life, but I've done that through hard work. No one's ever given me a penny in my life, and I try and share that luck as much as I can. But again, it's all about working hard, and I say that to my kids. You don't just get lucky. It just doesn't happen that way. Yeah, sometimes you're in the right place, but if you're not got the right tools when you're in the right place, you ain't going to get the gig. Simple. You're in this musical singing. You're on tour in 2016 doing this big nationwide tour.
February, you're going to Watford and Guildford and Northampton. March, you're in Cambridge, Leicester, Leeds, Carlisle, through Blackburn, Sheffield, London, of course, the Indigo O2, and then the Hammersmith Apollo. Huge venues, Manchester, Bridgewater, of course, Liverpool, York, and you end in Aberdeen on the 19th of May. Big tour. Talk to me about your voice and how you view it now. Are you the kind of guy that gets up in the morning and is sort of drinking Evian and worrying about it, or is it just what it is?
Well, I mean, doing an hour and a half on stage singing is a lot different than doing a show-ish, you know. You still have to project. You know, being a singer is using your voice in a number of different ways. I haven't done a tour like that for a long time, so let's see how we go. But the one thing I do know is I very rarely lose my voice. I might lose the dynamic of the voice. Do I look after myself? Yes, you know, I mean, you know, I still enjoy a drink, and I still enjoy, you know, but I try and keep as fit as I can. I try and have vitamins. I mean, the biggest thing for something like this is trying to avoid getting ill. That's yeah. You know, a cold or a flu, to have that sort of, you know, lack of focus, you know, to try and be pushing things up a hill rather than sort of, you know, riding the wave. You know, that's when these things don't become enjoyable. Lots of water. I juice every day, you know, try and have my green juices. I try and eat well. I'm trying to avoid, you know, too many hard carbs at the moment, pulling back from sugar. You know, all the sort of things that tell you I'm going through a midlife crisis. It's perfect.
Well, you know me, I'm a deeply unattractive man, and I've asked you this question before, and it seems as if your fans are getting more into you than ever. What is it like looking at yourself in those pictures and realising that you were delicious, and for many people, you still are?
I don't see that. I mean, I'm definitely not complaining about my genetics, you know, but I don't, you know, I sort of, you know, I try and, as much as I try and look after the assets and those things that I've been given, absolutely. You know, I'm trying to concentrate on being a good performer. You know, you know, the looks are only skin deep. What I would say though is, as you get older, people tend to look beyond the blue eyes and the blonde hair. You know, and it's nice to be getting a bit of respect these days. That's for sure. Really nice. I'm enjoying that.
I get the feeling in the past you've sort of felt like Neighbours was sort of a good thing and a bad thing. It brought you to the public and gave you a career, but at the same time you were ogled and loved as the Jason and Kylie thing. And as you say, I think what musical theatre has done is prove you can sing, because you would have been out of work by now. If you can't deliver 8 times a week, they ain't going to work with you. And for that, it's hugely credible. You mentioned earlier the acting stuff. Is that the next dream then, to prove yourself on TV as the go-to guy as an actor?
I'd love to do that. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. You know, I mean, I feel comfortable as an actor. It's in my skin. It's in my bones, far more than as a singer. You know, it's difficult for me in this country because, you know, to cast me in a gritty sort of Newcastle-based police series, you know, would you choose Jason Donovan? I don't know, you know, and as a producer, you know, if I had to put that cap on, I probably would think twice about that. So I guess for me, what I need to be looking at are shows that probably are bigger than me in a way. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, the good news is you're Jason Donovan. The bad news is you're Jason Donovan. That's one of my problems. But you know, I you know, in the meantime, you know, doing shows like Priscilla on tour, you know, I look myself in the mirror and think, you know, things are pretty good, you know. I can't really complain.
I was just going to say that. I think perspective is interesting. As I look at you, I have nothing but respect and admiration on a professional level, because, I mean, you've achieved everything. You've been a star and you're still at it, and you still are a star. That's hard to keep. It's easy to get a number one, but it's hard to stay there, isn't it?
Yeah, again, you've got to keep working at these things, and, you know, you've got to be liked. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you've got to, you know, treat people with respect. you know, because when you get these sort of, you know, moments in your life where the worlds collide in a perfect sort of storm, it's very easy to sort of piss a lot of people off, pardon my expression.
Yeah, I get it.
But, you know, long may it last. Let's see.
And I love that you don't get involved in the sort of Big Brother stuff. You actively avoid that, don't you?
I've done. I'm a celebrity. I love the experience. It's not, you know, it's not high on my, you know, lists of achievements, but it certainly was a great experience. You know, I would avoid Big Brother like the plague because, you know, it's a Channel 4 moment to try and sort of trap you into doing and saying things that maybe is all about ratings. You know, ITV at least produce a good family show, and so does someone like Strictly. You know, there's a sort of common decency about it, but there's a few there that I wouldn't touch with a barge pole.
Is it just too risky in the edit? I mean, it's on Channel 5 now, which is arguably worse.
Sorry, Channel 5. There you go. And I love the show. You know, I mean, I quite enjoy dipping in and dipping out of those sort of programs. Is it too risky for the edit? Probably. Yeah. Probably.
I love talking to you, and I'm fascinated by your life and career. I wish you all the best with Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It truly is a wonderful show. There's so much crap out there. The thing about Priscilla is it's a wonderful show, and it's a jukebox musical with a bit of class. For a start, the costumes are stunning, the acting's remarkable, and the songs are incredible. So you've got a good one there, and you in it really is terrific. And to see your fans ogling over you, what it would be to be your penis for a day, Jason Donovan, it must be marvellous.
I'll ask that one to my wife.
Yeah.
No one else.
If you could have my face for one day, this conversation would be very different, I'm telling you. Hey, listen, congratulations on everything. You're on tour through February, March and May next year. JasonDonovan.com is the place to go and find out tour dates, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, continues to tour the UK to 5-star reviews. Great to talk to you, Jason.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Welcome back to The Big Show, talking to the big stars, and it's always nice to meet an old mate. Jason Donovan, how are you?
Good afternoon, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm normally plugging CDs and you being gorgeous. Today we're plugging a musical, who'd have thought?
Well, Jason Donovan and musicals do hold hands, but, you know, I feel pretty settled in this show now. It's been going for me for nearly 8 months, so, you know, long... I can't wait for my holiday, basically. So that happens pretty soon.
How do I stand if I say I love this show?
You stand pretty much amongst 1,600 people that see the show every night, and most of them stand, exactly. You're right, at the end. You know, it's a pretty feel-good sort of musical. One could argue that it's certainly not Disney, you know, in that sense, and it ain't Mamma Mia, but it has the same feel-good factor as both of those sort of shows that I've just mentioned. It's Australian, it's based loosely on the film, you know, and it has some great songs, and I Will Survive, MacArthur Park, you know, Finally. These are sort of disco anthems with a gay twist to it, I suppose. And, you know, essentially it is a story of 3 misfits, really, with a heart, you know. And I play a character called Mitzi Tick, who basically harbours a secret, and that secret is that he has a child, and slowly the story unfolds from there.
It's a great show. It's camp and it's uplifting and it's a load of nonsense. And God, do we need a show like this at this time?
Yeah, one could argue definitely it's all of those things. And I'm, you know, I think for me, I'm proud to be part of something that is Australian first and foremost. It gives me an opportunity to sing. It gives me an opportunity to act and play a character that I think has sort of, you know, quite diversity. You know, and bring essence of myself to the character, which is, you know, someone that you want to love as well. You know, hopefully people want to love me. But I think my wife certainly does, and my children do. So, you know, I'm thrilled to be part of a great Australian product. And you know, for me personally, there's very few times in your life you get to open a show. Joseph really was the last show that I opened in the West End, and that story has been told and that history has been told, well, let's hope that Priscilla has the same sort of legs, and if not the same legs, at least a different loincloth and possibly a few more wigs and a bit of glitter.
You know all about radio now because you've got your own radio show and you're good at this interviewing stuff. And I'm going to make a mistake now because I'm going to be negative. And you shouldn't really this early on because you could walk out. I didn't really like you in this, nor Joseph, because I just end up feeling inadequate. And I know the lady I'm with is going to look at you, then look at me, and suddenly I'm not enough man.
You're talking about your own personal self-worth?
Yeah, I mean, you don't wear a lot in either of those shows, Joseph or this, and they're looking at you with all the right bits in the right places, and there I am dangling like stalactites.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a sort of a backhand.
No, I don't mean it as a compliment. No, I really don't.
Well, I'm confused about where this is going. But I can only say to you, I'm sorry. I don't see myself as anyone special. I still have the same concerns and worries when I go on stage each night. What I do is a profession that I love. Yes, I keep myself fit. I look after myself. I eat the right foods. I'm playing a sport at the moment, and I'm playing at the top level of the sport. And I have to maintain a certain amount of fitness to be able to deliver what you're saying, which is, things that sort of turn people on, I suppose.
Yeah, they're going to give me the role, are they?
Well, I don't know. It depends on whether you can act and sing, but I'm sure there's some auditions up for various roles coming up at the moment. But look, this show is for everybody. One could argue it's probably not for the little kids, but certainly, I think it crosses a lot of audience boundaries. And, I think we're about 250 shows in, and we've had a standing ovation every night. So, I'm proud of it.
Colour My World, I just think it's so brilliantly done in this. It's camp and over the top, but it's got real heart like most of the story.
Yeah, Colour My World is written by a guy called Tony Hatch. You might know who Tony Hatch is. He wrote the theme tune for Neighbours and managed to slip one in whilst I wasn't looking into this show.
So to speak.
Yeah, I mean, this show, this musical is a concoction of... concoction? Maybe that's the word. Don't know. Never thought about it too
much. Was that Freudian concoction?
Maybe concoction. Concoction. I'll excuse myself. I'm Australian. I can get away with it. The show it marriages many different tunes, and unfortunately, because ABBA has such a wonderful, successful musical down the road, we're not allowed to dive into their back catalogue. But there are songs like, as I say, Finally, I Will Survive, and this one, Colour My World.
Colour My World from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is on here at the Palace. The big star, of course, is Jason Donovan. But it's actually a kind of a double-hander, this, because there's you and another guy that I was lucky enough to talk to about 6 months ago, and you do just steal the show, both of you. It's an ensemble piece.
Yeah, it is an ensemble piece, and God bless the understudies who do a brilliant job. But the dynamic between Oliver and Tony and myself is 250 shows strong, and it's an interesting chemistry because we're different people, and I'm sure if they were all in the room at the moment, they would say exactly the same thing. But essentially, there's a bit of fire for us on stage. 8 shows a week is tough. I can honestly say to you that pace is something that I think you can only do for a certain amount of time.
And you've done it for a while now. I mean, how long are you going to be in it before you have to just take a break?
I'm contracted for a year, and we still are not to know whether it's going to go beyond that. It certainly won't be long after that I leave, because I just don't think I can give it. At 8 shows a week for a year, you start to repeat yourself too many times, and things go a little crazy. Notwithstanding the fact that I have a family at home, and I always seem to be going against the traffic a lot, which slightly depresses me sometimes.
And all those hours you're wasting in the Mantan booth, making yourself like this gorgeous colour.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we are sponsored by a particular self-tanning company. So I managed to go up there quite a lot, actually. I'm sort of into that at the moment.
And I hate you for it. What's this thing you're drinking?
This is apple, orange, ginger, with a thing called spirulina, which has a seaweed base to it.
It looks disgusting.
It looks green. It actually doesn't taste that bad, because you can't really taste the green spirulina stroke seaweed in it. But I've so far managed to avoid anything that resembles a flu-like symptoms. Although this week, it's the only time I'm starting to feel slightly a bit clammy in the ears and, a bit like, something's going on.
You need a week in Barbados, that's what it is.
I'm about a week off from going to Barbados for a week.
All right, let's get back to you, because I tried to get you last year for the book and they said, no, they said you're not important enough to talk to Jason Donovan. What's wrong with me? In the pecking order of all the people you spoke to, why was I not good enough?
I don't control the press and publicity side of things. All I can say to you is I try and get around this to as many people as I can, because I'm one of the few artists that does believe in self-promoting and publicity. I think it's a very important ingredient. There is no point having the most wonderful piece of art or commercial entity and not be prepared to go out there and sell it. There's absolutely no point to me. I'm sorry. Again, this is twice.
It's all right, we'll move on. I'm going to forgive you on both occasions. Your life is interesting and so fascinating to me as a deeply unattractive person, because you've always had...
You do have a complex about this.
I have, because when I'm in the room with someone like you, I see how ladies react as I follow you through a building. And there's kind of an aura about you that they're curious. Me, skid mark on a hotel towel.
Well, I'd hate to see your underpants, but I'm sure there's more than a skid mark on those.
It is a blessing, though, in life, isn't it, when you go through and people like you immediately?
It's a funny question you're throwing up, because that sort of, genetically I was born with what I was born with, and one could argue that there is discriminative things that happen if you are blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and there's certain elements to life which, make that quite difficult, particularly looking at your 20s when you're trying to be taken seriously. It's only now when I've started to recede a little and I've got a little few lines under my eyes and a bit of a beard that people actually go, you know what, we can sort of start taking him seriously. But life isn't just about the way you look. It's what's inside, and I've been reminded of that very recently on a number of occasions. And look, I've been doing this business for 25 years. I'm still here. I'm still in business. I must be doing something right, even though I have to say I do doubt myself. I'm like everyone else. I have insecurities and days that are ups and downs. But you know what? If you ask me, I love my life. I have 2 great children. I have a great wife. I have a profession that I'm constantly learning about and challenges me. It's not, I'm not one of these people that sits there and takes the job because it's easy. I'll take the job if it's going to stress me out a little bit, and I think that's important in life, because it's very easy for all of us in whatever profession just to sit back and take the check at the end of the week. It really is.
When you're at your top, something clicks and you self-destruct. Why do you think that is, when you're at the top of your game and so talented and creative, that sometimes happens?
Well, we all want to be something we're not sometimes, and the sort of sadness of maybe my 90s craziness was really, I was trying to be cool, and actually, if I look at myself in that loincloth and a pair of white fluffy socks and wearing a Joseph coat, earning an extortionate amount of money in an Andrew Lloyd Webber show at the Palladium, I don't know why I was even thinking what I was thinking at the time. But there is a natural rebellious quality in any sort of success, I think, to want to and creativity, business is a very more sort of structured thing. Creative people work in different sort of ways, and I do see myself as creative. The bottom line of it is, though, I like drugs, unfortunately, at that time, and that destroyed any self-worth that I had, and I basically sort of spent too much time enjoying myself on stupid substance abuse, when actually if I'd sort of balanced my life a little bit more, I probably would have come through it a bit quicker. However, I don't regret things, because life is too short, and the plus side for me is I'm here talking about it, having not snorted a line of cocaine for many years, and I got through it. I'm a lucky one.
How do you think it is possible to get that line right, where you're at the top of your game, you're happy and everything's perfect, without overstepping it? It seems like there's something in show business that doesn't parallel the two.
Well, nothing is ever perfect. And what you read in Hello magazine and Now and Heat, is a glossy picture of what looks glamorous, but we all have our demons and we all have our ups and downs. And Robbie Williams talks about going out in Nebworth, to 75,000 people at the top of the game, hating it, because he's scared that paranoia sets in. So nothing is ever quite what it seems. And no one is immune. I don't care how successful. Look what Michael Jackson, those sort of scenarios. That's pretty much the straight and tall of the answer. I think some people are more honest about where they're going and others aren't. I find honesty a far more a much easier way to cope with life than trying to hide. And I've got into trouble for that before,
Are you okay now with being judged? Because let's face it, when the curtain goes up 8 times a week, I'm sat there judging you. I'm going to decide immediately whether you're good enough for me to sit there for the rest of the show. How do you come to terms with that? Because there's no other business like it where your every word is being judged.
The judgment is the theatre is packed. That sort of says to me that things are working, and that's not an egotistical way. Something is right. It's the combination of me, Tony, Oliver, the show, the production, the people behind me. For every person out there doing it, there's a team of people making us look good, as long as you can sort of translate and deliver the goods. But you know what? I enjoy my work, and it is important that I get the self-gratification. And to have a success like Priscilla is really nice for me because, I've been working hard, and not everything works, You put out a record, it doesn't work as much as, you million seller down the road. There's only one way when you're at the top to go down. What is important to me is again, my family and, my situation at home, and the people that are really close around me. But yeah, a little moment of success now and again sort of helps the morale, keeps the troops going a little bit, makes Daddy sort of a nice guy to sort of be on holiday with rather than sort of anxious. And, I think Priscilla has been that for me. And, I think I firmly believe if you keep sticking at something in your life, you start to get rewards for things after a while, and people start to take you seriously, and whatever that means.
Testament to your dedication is the fact you do 8 shows a week. I speak to most of the stars in the West End, and they don't do 8 shows. Why don't you ask to do 5?
I probably will. The truth be known, coming next contract, but whether they want that or not, that's their choice. I do 8 shows a week. Yeah, I have a massage 2 days a week. I'm 41. I'm pretty fit. I feel that the sort of.
All right, don't go on about it. What is all this about your physicality?
Oh, well, it's the same insecurities you have when you watch me on stage. You're sitting in your chair worrying about all your girlfriends around you trying to take you seriously. I don't know.
And how much does the masseur pay to actually get a hold of this?
I pay her, but she's bloody good.
I want to just talk very finally about this musical, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is incredibly camp, and you're playing a gay man. How do you do it so well? I mean, you're very proficient at it.
Have you seen it?
Why would I sit here for 20 minutes talking to you if I haven't seen it?
I didn't know whether you had or not, but
You're telling me people would actually come and sit with you and not see it?
Some people don't. Some people don't, some people, would interview and you don't necessarily see it. The camp side of it, I was brought up by gay people all my life. This business is surrounded by campness. The true art of Tick and stroke Mitzi is the balance between not being too gay, because everyone can mince around and that's easy, but it's the balance between being camp but not being over the top camp. Because remember, this character swings a little bit and has a child, and that part of his life is very serious. So that's a balance you have to try and find.
I suppose the hard thing for you is you've come from Joseph, which was a stupid musical, let's face it. A good musical, but a stupid musical. And this, again, has moments of stupidity in it, where you've got to be so uplifting. Is it easy to do Brecht and Harold Pinter every night, where you can come in a bad mood and get away with it?
Well, I haven't done many straight plays, but I did a play called Festin in Australia, which is, a pretty serious play. I find acting a lot easier than singing. We all act because, however, some of us just can't do it on stage because of a confidence factor. You know, I think to sing comes from another part of the body. You're far more susceptible to how you're feeling emotionally, physically, mentally, and it's, you know, it's an instrument. You know, and instruments are vulnerable. You know, you can sort of, unless you lose your voice, you could pretty much act your way through anything, you know. So I actually find this more stressful, yet more exhilarating when it finishes and when it's completed. But you dance, you sing, you act, you know, it's the whole gamut. And yes, 8 shows a week is a whole currency within itself.
Congratulations on being you and the success here at Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is tremendous. And good luck with the radio show and all that business. Lots going on, and the book's out as well. People can still get that. I don't really like you, but it's nice to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know what to say to that.
But you've never had that at the end of an interview.
No.
Jason Donovan, thanks so much.
Okay.